Only if we're getting federal funds, we get subjected to organized labor costs. When we using private money or we using state money, most of the time we're not subjected to that. So in California, the cost easily triples when we're talking about organized labor rates. And that's why a lot of affordable housing looks to build as much as in the factory. Not that we are against unions or something like that, it just does not work. And that's why you see, with all the policy, it's ridiculous. There's not much affordable housing, look around. It gets built one project in 5 years, $600,000 a unit. It's not gonna happen, it's gonna be mass produced. Something needs to be done. And that's what a lot of the affordable housing folks are trying to figure out, this factory build and trying to figure out how to minimize on-site labor and also the on-site change orders. So when the guys are in there, there's every moment there are a lot of change orders. One of the properties I was doing, they were like it was in Texas, we're doing rehab, 180 change orders.
Just like you mentioned change orders, so I love. Yeah, because I think in other states and in California, like the relationship between the owner and the general contractor and subcontractor are different. So in California, the TNT contract, like max price, doesn't mean like there is a cap price. So you always have like lots of change orders on site. So that's why what I'm laughing. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's change gears a little bit. So when you first enter this room, you can't help noticing the beautiful design of this room. So we all know design has a really important impact in the feasibility of the project. So from your perspective, how can design industry adapt to your changing needs?
I think the problem with our industry is we have a lot of amazing, beautiful designs that have happened in the past. And humans have been building since the BC, right? And but the fact remains of the industry that we do not codify this design expertise. So there was one startup here, Will, sitting right there, and his idea of codifying this design knowledge from a project that has been done before, and taking that into another project, just that process would make the design or the cost of the project much more efficient, because there will be lessons learned from the previous project. And right now in our industry, nobody does that. Every time there's a new project, we have to start from scratch, because there's not a historic database of how this project was designed, what were the problems that we had during the construction, which can be mitigated in the next projects if we build it again similarly. So I think that's,
I can further talk about it, and I think that for last 2 years, one of the things we've been doing is to come up with the standardization. We want to make sure that we build, because we only build senior housing, we want to build only one kind of configuration. Now, you can change the aesthetics of it, but there's going to be certain things that are always going to be standard, because I'm finding as we are rehabbing or doing rehabilitation of older buildings, there's so much customization that you just go crazy, because you have to deal with it. Just somebody was talking about those cabinets earlier, and absolutely, we pay a lot of money because the cabinets were built after designing the kitchen. So what we did is we built the kitchen first, cabinets, and then developed the wall around it. So the next time if we need to do something, we have everything of standard size. We don't have to wait for months to get another unit ready or pay a lot of customization costs. So yes, so there's a lot of work that other companies are also doing that. They're figuring out every type of, even the appliances, we're figuring out what are the appliances we're going to put in. They're going to be standard sizes, and that's mass production, and the mass production is needed in order to meet the demand. I I understand that there's a lot of, aesthetic value, absolutely. We don't want people to be in a cookie cutter box. I get that too. But we have to find a happy balance between something which is an architectural marvel versus something is a practical living space for somebody who's probably living in a garage space. So it's quite a bit necessity that we have to meet. So some kind of happy balance that we can find value, functionality, affordability, and above all, provide independence to that person, especially the seniors, which have low income and might be in a situation which is not the most ideal in those years of their life. So that's where we're going with this.
So we talk a lot about opportunities. Now let's talk about challenges. So what challenges do you see in developing and also operating the properties, and what is the possible solution you can propose?
I think the biggest problem in California is about the policies, the government policy. When you are doing the development and when you are like managing the property. Yeah. Because when you are doing the development, I just mentioned there is a very, very long process for the permit and the inspection. So when you're doing when you are doing the construction, you need to pass many inspections, right? So I think the process is not efficient. So it's very time consuming. And also, we all know, all the utility problems. So, when we are doing the construction, we just stay there and waiting for PG&E and water to come to do their design. Yeah. So I think the policy is the biggest problem. And when you are managing your property, you have rental controls, right? You need to be very, very careful about the local policy on the rental controls. So the policy, I think, is the biggest challenge from the government.
So I have this anecdote that I'd like to share. In California, developers are seen by the city as the enemy, while they should be seen as a support system.
Yeah.
So this question is for Mr. Tanaka.
Yeah.
But we have to realize why there are a lot of manufacturing is also moving out of California. Tesla, SpaceX, these companies, large companies, who are going outside, and there's a lot of red tape that cities need to, especially when it comes to affordable housing. Like Syd mentioned, there's not too much money. Someone's luxury could be tens of $millions of home, but some other person's luxury could be just moving out of a homeless shelter and getting a living space, permanent living space, and that's what Syd's company does. Provides senior living, senior affordable living. So cities should be more pro to such developers and actually handhold them throughout the process and expedite, because we lose a lot of money through the planning and bureaucratic phases of the project.
I can talk about the magnitude of the retirees. 10,000 people retire every day in the United States. So I hope 9,000 people have their retirement set, maybe 9,500 people, but there's still those 500 that don't. It might be the other way around, but what I'm saying is that there is so much demand for this industry. If we can figure out how to create value and somehow get some help from government to reduce the amount of red tape and create sense of urgency at the government agencies. We submit permits and they sit there for a year and a half, no sense of urgency. So it's a big challenge. At the same time, every politician comes out and says, look, what's going on? Affordable housing. The problem is, let's do something. We're ready to do something about it. How about the government is going to do something? So for what is in our control is to find innovative ways of doing it. Of course, we can't easily influence the behavior or sense of urgency, but at the same time, what we can control is to figure out how to add value, how to bring value. And I'm telling you that CCH is kind of stopped now building these in the inner cities and major cities because of the cost. So we are going out, we already have affordable housing in Reading, we have affordable housing in Visalia. So we don't look at seniors like only in the inner city. We look at simply somebody who's over 55 or 65. We need to meet those requirements. And we are going out to different cities where we really want to develop and are serious about meeting the goals. And as you know, in the COVID environment, we've been working out better for us because people don't want to live in congested cities anymore. So that model is working very well for us. Like you going into more suburbs and build there where the land is cheap and is close to the amenities that we look for, which is, hospitals and pharmacies and groceries and all those things. We do check all that.
Now it comes to the last question of the panel about affordable housing. So with the increased cost of building, managing all the properties, it creates a lot of stress and also challenges for affordable housing. So how can company do to adapt and also still meet the needs from those low-income individuals?
I can speak to that. So as I started off first talking about saying that apartment rent is $2,000 in the conventional market, affordable will be restricted, and that's the whole purpose. So they will charge, they will be allowed to charge up to $1,200. So the difference has to come from somewhere because the operating cost, regardless of how efficient you are, you're gonna pay the same rate for the water, everything else, right? Garbage service and all this stuff. So what they need to do is it is called a choice voucher, meaning government gives vouchers to those people who are eligible, and they themselves pick the landlord who they want to work with, and the landlords who are in the marketplace accepting that. So a lot of nonprofits and CCH-like companies want to get those awarded to individuals, so the individuals can redeem those vouchers, so to speak, with us, so we can pay for the difference of the cost. The cost is not going to be there. There's no way, because you know that the rate of return, even in the conventional housing, what is that? In real estate, generally, and rental. Top 8%, if you're really doing very well. So, generally 5 to 6%, so that you can see the margins already. So if you reduce the rent by 40%, are you going to survive? So that's where the dilemma is, because the costs are high, because we have to pay those wages, because government tells I gave you money, you got to redistribute that well. Okay, so that's good. So they'll go to step 2. What about this 40% reduction in the rent? That has to come from the government in the form of vouchers. But we know that a lot of people, whatever reasons, unfortunately, they don't have their retirement and pensions all set to go, and this is the reality of it. They need to deal with that reality.
He's the expert.
Yeah. That's the same question I want to ask. Because we don't know affordable housing, so I'm curious about the profit model.
Is it almost always apartments?
Yes, they're all apartments. I want to share that with you in a very interesting story. We did a lot of research to build one single-story homes in California, and we learned that every part of a senior living facility must be accessible. So you cannot build 2 stories with the stairs. And the reason is that, say, John is a friend of Sally. Sally lives upstairs, John lives downstairs. Now, Sally can come, but John is deprived of going up to Sally because she lives on the upper floor. So the idea is that you must have elevators, or all areas must be accessible at all times. And that changes the whole cost structure.
So,
I think to add to that, what Sid is saying, if we, so a larger parcel of land can be bought, and if we make a single story or a two-story apartment style building, it's way, way cheaper than going on a tower. Because that changes the whole structural load path, and you're using a heavier, super built up foundation and things like that. But to add to Sid's point, it's not possible. It's not possible because the codes say that you need to have an elevator, and people can't even walk, 2 flights of stairs, basically. So, as
So
to
those, so you're saying those are the driving them from exercise?
And why you don't want to take the chances, lawsuits, right? If we build it,
Yeah.
then people are looking for a way to throw lawsuits here left, right, and center.
Wonderful, wonderful. So because of timing, we come to the end of the panel. So whoever has still questions would like to chat with our speaker can do this after the session. And I want to thank our panelists again for your great and also insightful sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.